Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I am very excited about today's video because I'm going to be reviewing the film Kung Fury. This was a short action comedy released in 2015, and it was written and directed by David Sandberg, and Sandberg also stars as the lead character, Kung Fury. If I were to describe this film, I would say it's kind of a part spoof, part homage to the kinds of action films that came out in the 1980s. And the character of Kung Fury is this Miami cop. He's a kung fu master, and his look and affect is really inspired by and a parody of those macho 80s action stars like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Clint Eastwood, Van Damme, all those guys. Even Kung Fury's look references the Streets of Rage beat-em-up video game from the 90s. There's actually an upcoming Kung Fury video game coming out, and which, you know, we watched a trailer for that video game. It directly references the Streets of Rage game. So it has fun making all these references back to the 80s era. And the way I see this film is this: the guy who grew up in the 80s and made a movie as a way just to have fun reliving his childhood. So I will be going into like spoilers in this review. And the plot of this movie, they don't even attempt to provide any explanation for why things are happening. It's just complete random craziness, as you'll see. Set in 1985 Miami, some kids are playing at the arcade when one of the games malfunctions. They hit the machine, which makes it angry, transforming it into a raging homicidal robot, which starts wreaking havoc in the city. And I just love this. Like, from the very opening scene, the film just tells the audience, get ready for some dumb shit. And the bad green screen and CGI just kind of like drive home like the campiness of what you're about to see. Meanwhile, at his pad, Kung Fury gets called for duty to stop the raging arcade machine. His intro is comically rife with all the hyper macho posturing typical of the 80s action star. And I also love this scene when she asks him, so what are you going to do? And he stoically replies in this dull monotone, my job. The whole my job line becomes a running gag in the film, and I just find it hilarious because, you know, what would be kind of like a heroic line in any action film like here just makes Kung Fury look absolutely insane. Like after the phone call, he like crushes the phone in his hand and like jumps out of the window into his car, and it's great. Oh, by the way, this film has like the best phone humor. I mean, the phone humor in this film is just, but it is, I mean, I was like belly up laughing. And on a side note, just the way David Sandberg does Kung Fury's voice is absolute comic gold. I mean, for me, it sounds somewhere between like Keanu Reeves or Clint Eastwood in Dirty Harry. Yeah, that's my bicep. And I just love it because we've all seen actors cast as that gritty, macho male lead. They often like lower their voice to like a whisper or this emotionless monotone to sound super serious. And so I love how Kung Fury, you know, in every situation, no matter what, he has like same dull, repetitive monotone. Like even when he's asking a girl out on a date, it's like, here, take my number. It's just like fucking hilarious. Kung Fury's partner is killed by a ninja in the line of duty. His partner's death is cartoonishly silly, playing off the most cliche tropes of buddy cop movies. Mourning the death of his partner, Kung Fury is randomly bitten by a cobra and struck by lightning, which transforms him into a super-powered kung fu master. He uses his newfound abilities to fight crime. And also, in this film, everything is taken literally. So, Kung Fury, for example, is assigned a new partner, named Triceratops. And yeah, it's literally a cop with a Triceratops head, because why not? After the Miami chief of police assigns Kung Fury his new partner, we cut to a boat docking area where some mysterious figure is transported out of nowhere onto the scene. Yeah, it's freaking Hitler. Hitler is played by Jorma Taccone. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but this actor is terrific in the role. I mean, he's a terrific comedic actor, and in my opinion, he gives the best satiric turn as Hitler since Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator. And that's counting Taika Waititi's portrayal in Jojo Rabbit. In this scene, Hitler makes a phone call to the chief of police in my favorite scene of the movie.
Yeah, this is the police. Fuck you!
I mean, the phone humor in this film is just off the wall funny. And I also love the idea of our devices and commodities like attacking us, like they're out to get us. And it's totally perfect for a retro film like this about the 80s period. Because I think the 80s are kind of viewed as this like pop culture wasteland, the time of like empty materialism and commercialization. And yeah, so it makes sense that Hitler would use like a phone as a means to like, kill us. Another character is introduced, Hacker Man, who, yes, is a computer hacker. Hacker Man traces the phone call to Hitler, and I love the following scene with Hacker Man tracing the phone call to Hitler. Because I guess in the world of this movie, Hitler and the Nazis aren't well-known historical figures. So neither Hacker Man or Kung Fury know who Hitler is at first, until a bell goes off in Kung Fury's mind, and he's like, I recognize that name. And again, like this film, like in every single scene, either makes Kung Fury look incredibly dumb or totally insane. An exposition scene follows with Kung Fury explaining how Hitler and his Nazi scientists performed experiments on human subjects to unlock the secret of Kung Fu. After the experiments go terribly wrong, Hitler decided to travel into the future to find Kung Fury and steal his Kung Fu powers to use for his own evil agenda. Kung Fury decides to travel back in time to Nazi Germany to stop Hitler. He and Hacker Man make a time machine using a retro keyboard, which totally makes no sense, but like the rest of this movie, no reasons are given for why any shit is happening. So just go with it. In the time portal, things go horribly wrong, and Kung Fury is accidentally transported back to the primeval age. And this mythical age that Kung Fury finds himself in looks to me like some kind of retro Fantasia. It has like dinosaurs, like raptors with lasers, barbarian babes, Norse gods. Again, with this film, just like dream up any weird shit you can think of and put it in the movie. Kung Fury leaves this fantasy land for Nazi Germany, but before he goes, we have another bit of phone humor. Before jumping back into the time portal, Kung Fury stops and asks Barbariana out. He gives her his number and a phone to call him with, which is designed to look like the clunky mobile phones of the 80s. And I find the complete disconnect of calling someone on this clunky, unwieldy phone just utterly hilarious. And Kung Fury gives her a sales pitch for the phone at the same time. And again, for me, I think the film is like harkening back to the 80s as this time of like jaded materialism and pop culture detritus, and just playing that to the hilt. Once in Nazi Germany, we get a uproarious vignette-style dialogue scene between two Nazis. The older Nazi makes fun of the younger Nazi's mustache. The younger Nazi is brought to tears defending his mustache as a Hitler mustache. And for me, this is where the film in this scene gets unexpectedly deep and kind of insightful. It's also where it kind of shows for me it's more European sensibilities and sense of humor. Because I don't think you often get this kind of edgy, dark humor in like an American comedy or film, like this jab at the Nazis' deep-seated insecurities around their manhood. I found kind of deep and unexpected for a film that kind of just plays off how surface level campy it is. In the big climax to the film, Kung Fury and his friends face off against Hitler's army in a suitably video game style final battle. And another thing that's like great about this movie is that it has no pretense to having any like higher ideal or deeper meaning. Like action movies can give all sorts of motivations or reasons for like why a hero is going out to like fuck some people up. He's doing it because of family values, or this was done to him, and so it's justified. In the end, you're just watching some guy like kick some ass and enjoy and getting a lot of pleasure watching that on screen. It makes me think of Hot Shots Part 2, that Charlie Sheen National Lampoon comedy. At the end, he and his fellow soldiers are on a mission, and one of his soldiers, played by Miguel Ferrer, is having second thoughts about everything in the mission, and he's about to give up, and he's like kind of losing his willpower and everything. So Charlie Sheen gives him this like pep talk in this great scene, and after this pep talk, Miguel Ferrer just goes and like shoots a bunch of like bad guys, and then afterwards goes up to Charlie Sheen and says, "Thanks, Topper. I can kill again. You've given me a reason to live." And that's like one thing I find a little subversive about Kung Fury and films like Kung Fury. Like RoboCop's another one of those that makes you really reflect on kind of how crazy it is to get enjoyment out of watching like violence on screen, like even simulated violence. And it's like, that's kind of crazy. And this film just like gleefully references 80s pop culture, and its tone just like straddles the line between paying homage, being nostalgic, and then just like mocking the stupidity of the 80s era. And I love a film like this that, doesn't take itself too seriously, knows what it is, and just, embraces its campiness. Like, I just love that. I had a lot of fun with this movie, and it makes me really excited to see what David Sandberg does in his feature-length sequel to the film. And the sequel has some like star power attached to it. It has Arnold Schwarzenegger and Michael Fassbender in the cast, and then a lot of the actors from the short film are coming back as well. So I'm super excited to see what David Sandberg does with that. For me, Kung Fury is just the ultimate guilty pleasure film. And if you're like me, you love the films from the 80s, you love like the 80s era and all the references, and love that kind of retro style, then you're just gonna have a blast with this. So anyway, hope you enjoyed today's video. I had a lot of fun making it, and I will see you in the next one.